Boy, mm, that was really a nice dinner. Really, really, really. Most church food is dreck, but this was nice. About 50 people. It was a real cover dish dinner. 50 people all cooked their specialty and brought it. And it was pretty freaking amazing. And I had my fill of roast beef and turkey and pot pie and every kind of vegetable and lots of yummy stuff. Really, really good stuff. And I tried to stay away from the sugary stuff, but at the last minute, there was, chocolate, a German chocolate cake, and whipped cream with strawberries and apple. Ooh. So I had a plate of that, and I can feel it. I can feel it in all the spots, all the uh, acupressure points, uh, and so I'll have to. That was my Christmas dinner right there. So I will, you know, really, really, really get serious about not eating um, sugary things. But it's hard. Once I went to the unmentionable one's family's home, and they had a ton of everything, and had all these Italian cookie delights. And she just cooked a ton of them and had them everywhere. Not just for dessert. She had them 24/7 all over the place. And so yes, um, that is my. Set my whole. I said, oh well, just eat a few. And I eat a lot. I said, I just well, you know, not. Hmm, there's some Floridians. Anyway, I just wanted to touch base with you, see if any of we were starting to get about 4 or 5 people on the chat, and then they needed my assistance, so I went to help, and then have dinner and sat with people and talked and read their palms. And these are all church going people, so they know me by now. So they all come over, and I do muscle testing. So it's, oh, I got a pain over here. What is that? And I said, basically, I said, well, lose a few pounds, you'll be fine. It's the best. I, as the griot, I can't, subscribe anything or tell anything. I can, tell a story about things, but that's about it. And they like that, right? And so, and before I did the live chat, I was over down the road at the church where I go and have fellowship, meaning talk about the Bible studies. And people like my take on the Bible studies, right? Because a lot of people quote the Bible, blah, 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 blah. And I just basically tell stories about it and talk about unconditional love and unconditional forgiveness. That's all we have to really focus on. Really. That's all we have to focus on. All the rest of the teachings in there can be all bound up together in two things, unconditional love and unconditional forgiveness, right? So, anyway, that's the story. Um, Here it is, I think the 10th or 11th, something. What day is it? Let's see. And we are right on or December 11th, right? Sunday, December 11th. So this year, just like every year, has been the most important year of your life. Oh, it's all right, and because it's true. The shit is hitting the fan, and there are all these things coming together. AI taking over the world. some guy making a pandemic in his kitchen with his CRISPR. These are all true, right? But these have always been true, right? This has always been able to be done and have been done. Like a good example is the Irish potato famine. Ireland was England's garden. I mean, all their vegetables and dairy and everything, because, Northern Ireland was only 15 miles from England, right? So it wasn't like a big boat ride. And so, the Irish people were basic slaves, right? And they were told that, all they can eat is potatoes, right? And so they, for generations, they did that, grew everyone's, and if you eat that carrot that you're picking, will kill your whole family, and it was just like that. And then at a certain point, the Irish Catholics were, reproducing like bunnies. So they basically, a English um, biologist and a botanist got together, and there were all kinds of funguses and diseases of potatoes, but they just kind of kept taking those things and having them clone each other or have sex, those little bugs, and they finally came up with a super virulent fungus for potatoes that no one ever saw, and they just went around and sprinkled it around, and within a year and a half the potato crops were dying, and millions starved to death. I mean, there was bounty everywhere, but if you took a carrot or a cabbage home to your family, you and your family would be killed if you were found out, right? So that's the potato famine, and it was man-made, right? People, oh, people would have heard about it. Well, go Google it, and it'll show up that it's there. But there are other people saying, "Oh, that didn't happen," but there's a lot of evidence that did, right? And that's pretty much how the narrative is. All these scholastics who, basically they want to get me, get out, find some that, he's talking about that. It's a lie, it's a lie, And what do I say, kids? Don't believe a word I say. That's what I say. Check it out for yourself. I'm just telling you a story. So, um, that's where we are. You have to start being the concerned consumer of your information, of everything. I was talking to this lady, and the food at this dinner was like just off the hook. It really was. Like 50 people put love in every. The roast beef was the best. You name it. They had half a cow there. It was like pretty fucking amazing. The turkey was amazing. Everything was pretty friggin' amazing. And so the bottom line of all of this is, um, I was sitting there and I was talking. I was at this table with generational mom, grandma, you know, granddaughter, and all their kids, right? And so there's a table about 12 people, and they were kind of all one family, and the matriarch was sitting next to me, and she was a little deaf, so no one talks to her, but I talked to her, so I could talk, I would talk slow, looking straight in her eyes. She looked at mine, she smiled, we talked, and the oldest daughter, who was sitting across, who kind of takes care of her, kind of said, "Wow, my mother's really responding to you. She doesn't respond to anybody." I said, "Yeah, because you guys take her for granted." "No, we love Mamo." I said, "No, not, you don't love her, but you so once they, we had this big dinner, we talked about everything. The whole table had big conversations. Had the people let me read their palm, and they were like, "Wow, that's pretty cool." And this family didn't. I mean, Mamo lives there. Her sister lives there, and one of the daughters lived there, but everybody else lives, in other cities, not, millions of miles away, but, 20, 30, 40, 50 miles away. So they all come to this. This is their, um, it's these two churches come together, right? And they do a gigantic, amazing Christmas dinner in this school, in the gymnasium, right? And it was pretty friggin' amazing. And so the guy who runs it, he kind of told me about it. Said, "Oh, you need to be there, right? We want you there." So I went to church. I went to Bible. First I went to Bible studies, then I went to church. In the first 10 minutes of church, he's the head guy at the church. He snuck out. He said, "Come on, come on, come with me." So we hobbled out, Um, I drove down the road, and drove, where the dinner was gonna be, and I kind of sat over in the kitchen, while I was running on, saying, "Can I help you?" "Oh, no, Al, don't worry, just sit there, you'll be fine." So I was right at the door where everyone came in. So I was the maitre d' welcomer. "Hey, welcome home. Good to see you. Happy everything. Here, let me tell here, let's get you seated." Right. So that's what I did. Right. So that video that earlier today, that's what you had. I was at the school, sitting in the little, storeroom slash office slash, dining room, not dining room, but a place where people eat. The cafeteria is another room, and the gymnasium when they use for big things, and that's why I had the big dinner. So anyway, but the door where everyone came in, parked on the back side of the school, they all came through this door. So it's a school, so it has like automatic locks. So I said, well, X amount of people are going to come through here, you know. So I kind of looked in my bag, and there was a roll of tape, and I kind of taped it over, where the sensor is, and so the door would stay open, right? And and not set off any alarms. And so and that was good. And so people came in, and I welcomed them, and I sat them down. So I was the welcomer and maitre d', right? And patted people on the back, and smiled, and just chortled and got them online to get their dinner, because that's people, they put all the food on tables, and you just kind of took it what you want. So anyway, so there weren't that many people. There was enough for 300 people, right? And that's how many people are in those two churches. About 300 people. Each church has about 150 that come, but a good 200 people, instead of coming to this amazing dinner, went off to Golden Corral or someplace so they could be seen, or like they like that corporate food. And but this was all homemade stuff, and everyone put love in it. It was really amazing food. So that's what, if life could be that way, if we could just, in every day and every way, take the piece of the earth and make it stronger. If we could have love's unconditional forgiveness in our mind and our experience, in our everyday life. So we're not armed to respond negatively to anything that comes into our peripheral, right? That we don't like. Because half the stuff we don't like, if we were just conscious and looked at it in reality, how does this affect me? Oh, that's not a bad idea. You might be able to have a good life, if you let things help you grow, right? So that's the motif of the old crone, right? That's why she was here for eons, eternities, right? And that's one reason why she left or went someplace that, she's helping other people do other things. I mean, we haven't been in communication since 88, right? And so that's um, that's the story about her. And I will tell more stories about her because she is a nexus. Like I said, the book of you know Charles Dickens of the Christmas Carol is a great example. Meaning, I find it on her bookcase in the year 1970, and I look at when it was printed. I mean, reprinted for like $1. It was 91. That's 70, 80, 80 to 90. That's like 20 years into the future is when it was printed. And I, found a copy, and she said, "Oh, you should have this. It'll be helpful for you." And it was annotated by this woman that I then met in 93. And she looked at me, she saw me with this book, and she came over and took it out of my hands. "It's my book. Look, my name's right on it. Where'd you get this?" And I said, "I found it in Ireland in 1970, and she said, I bought it just new in '93, just a few weeks ago. I lost it a few weeks ago. How could you know?" And then she looked at it and she, "My God, this book's like it looks like it's 20 years old." I said, "I told you, I got it in 1970." And then she nearly fell over because she had only annotated that book up to page 18, right? But the book I had was annotated to the end. And when I say annotated, she didn't underline stuff. I mean, she wrote whole paragraphs in the side, right, about what it meant to her. And she was like, and that woman was one of my affairs to remember, right? Not quite a wife, but an affair to remember. And it's really strange, when I've had diabetes now for 12 years, and it's like hallucinogenics right now because the sugar is fighting with the love in the food. It's very, very interesting. And so, and the fact that I couldn't just whiplash my blood sugar and everything back into homeostasis right now is interesting because it's showing me, yes, if you're a good boy, I had a good 12 years of being a good boy. Yes, I'd eat a cookie now and then, so my blood sugar would jump up 10, 15, 20 points, but it wouldn't jump up 70 points, right? And stay up 70 points, no matter what I did, right? So, and when you are that way, why diabetes is so difficult is that once you get there and you go up the wagon, this is like alcoholism or drug addiction or any addiction. Once you have gone over the boundary layer, right, with eating sugar, your body gets addicted to it. So I wasn't going to have any of those desserts, not going to have any of those desserts, not going to have any of those desserts. And then I helped clean them up. The thing that no one ate was the German chocolate cheesecake, which I love that, and apples, German apple sauce. Not kind of good, but I mean, big chunks of it's like the stuff you put in a Coogan and whipped. No one ate the. No one went after the Ready Whip. Since no one did, I took the thing. I was looking for the case. I was going to take the whole case. Hmm. I guess the hallucinogenic attitude I'm feeling isn't just the conflict between the love in the food and the sugar, but I basically huffed all the nitrous oxide out of this can before I started sucking on the cream. Anyway, so that's, I'm giving you these microcosmic glimpses of what life's about, right? And so, in the last 2 weeks, and, I'm going to my doctor to try and get him aware of what's going on. He's so busy. He's so over, one doctor for 1,200 patients, right? That's American medicine. And he takes pretty good care of me as long as I'm taking pretty good care of myself. So like, why do I need him? Uh, he's just my gatekeeper. So I wanted to go to a podiatrist, and when I got back and I saw his assistant, and she, I said, "Aren't you going to take pictures?" "Oh, I don't have my camera with me." It's like, what? It's because when you have diabetic sores, you want to document them. Are they getting worse? Getting better? Right? Because to me, it's too subjective, right? Take a picture of it 2 weeks ago, and then take another picture and look at it too. That's very objective, right? And then, I mean, that's their protocol, but they just too busy, too distracted, too everything to do it, right? So it's like, what? So I'm just going to go back tomorrow and say, okay, I'm gonna move in. I'm gonna, live in your, I need a full panel blood test, right? Because I haven't had one in 6 months, so I should have one, right? But I was going to go live in New York, so I didn't get one, right? So anyway, so these are the dynamics, the issues, the conflicts of the material world. But when you put it in conjunction to the spiritual world, they're irrelevant, right? The only thing that matters is love, right? And and that's when, so today, yeah, that food was good. Slugging down a can of this was fun, but the real joy was all those people. And they all kind of know me, but not everyone has sat down and talked to me. So I sat down in a place where I knew this. I've seen that family, but most of them aren't from around here. Mamo is, and her sister is, and one of the daughters are. But and I only know the daughter somewhat, because it goes to the church, and I've talked to her a few times. And her son, I I know her son is, So Mamo looked at him and said, "How tall are you now?" And he goes, "Oh, 6'3". And I said, "And he's only 14." And she goes, "You're only 14." I said, "No." He goes, "No, Mamo, I'm 21." And I said, "Buddy, from my age, from your Mamo's age, you are like 2." Here you laugh. So, so I know that guy, right? And the 21-year-old. I've talked to him a good deal because I go to Bible study, and he goes to the Bible's, the class. There are lots of classes for the kids, classes for the women, classes for married couples, you know, and so classes for anybody who wants to go, and that's the one I go to, right? And so, you know, and so I talk to all the teachers of and I go to the other church too, right? Their sister church, and I go to their Bible. I don't really go to their services. I just go to their Bible studies because that's fellowship, right? The services are, just a show, and they pass the plate. Anyway, so I was talking to everybody, but I talked to this one and the whole family was there, big long table, about 14, 15 people. The other part of the family was like just over there. So it was really, it was like having a Christmas dinner. And I started telling Christmas stories of my family, and I only, I didn't spend hours doing it. I spent about 2 minutes. I'm basically saying, my parents were gaga for Christmas, and we'd have Christmas pageants, and you know, and my mom was hostess with the mostest, so she was always a party girl. We were always having a party in that house, and that was about all I said. And then they took it from there about parties and holidays and all the rest. So it was a real pleasure to hear everyone tell their story. And I kind of not narrated, but administered. So one person would tell a story, and they would, you know, have that moment where they didn't say anything, and I said, "So, what was your experience?" And I went all the way down, all the way to the kids, right, to the kids who were like between teenagers and 7, right. And that's about the age that was there, and so it was loads of fun, and everyone had a great time. And when we broke up, everyone just patted me on the back. It was so good that you know, sat at our table. I said, "No, no, you sat at my table," and they all laughed. And so, anyway, I passed out my card. I said, I have a YouTube channel, and the kids, a YouTube channel, so maybe we might get some more subscribers. Come on, how many people are watching? No one's watching. We're 23 minutes and 30 seconds into this, and the unmentionable one was saying, he sent me a whole big thing, text, not anything about, how he threw me out, not anything about how bad he felt, or not anything about, you know, he basically just says, "Are you all right?" And then goes straight into whatever he wants to talk about himself. That he's so hard to go see his children for Christmas, blah, 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 blah. But anyway, he left me this whole, text about, well, if you want, someone to watch your show, you need to do the right thing so the algorithm picks it up. I said, well, it'd be nice if all those YouTubes that I did on your channel that got over 100,000 views and likes for your channel, it would be nice if you put a link from that show to my channel, and a thing in literature saying, hey, if you like this, go see this guy, go look this link. In the last 4 years, he's not ever done that. And whenever he mentions a name, he uses um, dreams of dreaminess with what's his name? Not like he can ever find me, but people do. That's the amazing thing. They go to his channel, they see that, they're looking for more of that, and they find me, right? So, what can I say? It works in mysterious ways, right? So anyway, ay, 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 ay. I've been sitting too long, so I'm gonna go since no one's here talking back to me. Earlier, it was nice. There was a guy who told me about, oh, you should try this, this, and this for your diabetes, which I'm going to. And so that's the end of the show. I don't know when I'll next see you because again, I really am in limited funds. Cost gas money to go someplace to go online. It's going to get cold, really cold, and I am not living in a heated place. Right? I do have an electric blanket, and when I'm wrapped up in that, yeah, it's pretty toasty. But the rest of the place, not so much. I have to like wrap my head up in a blanket with a snorkel to breathe air, and then that when it gets really cold, that air is too cold to breathe. How would you live in an environment like that? Well, it'd be nice if, the cadre felt a little empathy for their sensei. Man, when I had senseis, I took care of them. And we're in the season of giving. Yeah, how about that? So, you want to put something in PayPal? Love it. The Dude Awake 42 at Gmail. Dude Awake 42 at Gmail. Dude Awake 42 at Gmail. And I look forward to hearing from you. You get a hold of me on my email. I'll get right back to you if I can, and we can have a conversation. Like I said, 100 people did that. I have they're my adepts. There are about 100 people that have got a hold of me and they had issues, problems, and we worked them out. Right? Anyway, and they all say, well, when I become famous, I'll take care of you. Man, I've had and for all the people who have told me that, like this guy right here. Let's see.
Please enter your password. Then you have 1 new voice message. You have 12 saved voice messages. First voice message sent Friday, December 9th at 6:29 p.m. from phone number 54029388482. Duration 1 minute 59 seconds.
Machine message because it sounds so cool. Today's baby Ayla's birthday, the baby. She's Rowan and Ivan's baby sister. So if you want, say happy birthday to her, or think happy birthday to her in your thoughts from 1,000 miles away. Say happy birthday. I hope you're okay. She's had a little bit of problems growing up that other kids didn't have because I wasn't allowed to be there for her because Danica kept me away from her. I missed her so much every day.
Not his child.
Since she was born.
Not his child.
I think every day. Well, I thought about her more often. And,
so why isn't he there?
So
why isn't he taking care of these children? He hadn't been there for them for 7 years.
That she didn't have a father there for her. It was me. God chose me as her father. So
not really. Her father is a tow truck man.
But she had some problems growing up without a real father there for her. Oh, I want to talk to you. How is it like growing up without your parents and being raised by your grandmother? Hey, that'd be really good to hear. And maybe I can be there for the baby when she's bigger, like this year, as soon as possible, because they got to get there soon to raise her and
He
to be a good
spent
person,
7 years
I think. So, but that would
giving
be good to
up
hear
on
from you how
his
you weren't raised by your parents
responsibility to be
until
a
you're
parent.
like 8 years old or 9
That's
years
all he
old
can
or
think
whatever,
about is himself.
and then you live with them
He
for a
feels
while and they
guilty,
kick you
so he
out or
quotes
something
this.
like that, and then you took care of them when you were like 48 or something like that. You took care of them until they were really old. They were
32,
like
28 years. I took care of my parents for 28 years. I mean, all the time. Take care of them.
Okay. Bye.
End of message. To erase this message, press 7. To save it, press 9. Message saved. End of new messages. To listen to your messages, press 1. First saved voice message. Sent Monday, June 7th at
And this
8:48
is a guy
p.m. from 203
who rented the big house
806
next, up the road from me, right?
minutes.
At the Floridian.
Hey Al, it's Kyle. I just wanted to reach out and try to reach you. I know it's hard to have service out there. I also I wanted to take this time. I absolutely wanted to tell you this in person or over the phone at least. But I just wanted to say how sorry I am, honestly, from the bottom of my heart. About just going dark on you. I can't tell you, how much you've done for me. And, I'm getting emotional saying this right now because, like this last year has been really rough. And, the only reason I was able to even move back to Charlotte and get my own place, was because of you. And, I just needed to disconnect myself from everything. Because I felt like I was wasting, my life away. And I know that it's important, to learn, what's going on, and it's important to learn, the truth about Jesus. And, I can tell you right now that I literally can call on Jesus, Al, and I know Jesus is next to me. And maybe that's just in my head. I would love to hear your opinion on that, but I'm convinced. And so I know that, like, I learned amazing things, during this time. My heart is just broken right now because you did so much for me and I did nothing back for you. And, I'm just so sorry.
And he was on like that for another 5 minutes. But, that was 2 years ago. And he was an executive. He was like poster boy for upper middle class. His parents were rich. They're not rich, upper middle class. He went to a good prep school, met the right kids, then went to the right college, and met the right people. His father was, an executive, knew a lot of people, got him into a business that fit this kid, and his starting salary was 70 grand. And then he went up the ladder really quickly because he fit the poster boy, right? So he got to upper middle management in 2 years. He was making, double six-figure salary. He had more money than God. So he was buying all the stuff. He when the pandemic, he rented this house and he showed up, right? And I was like his Yoda, and because he bought this $170,000 Ford F-250. It was like a spaceship, had all kinds of everything. And it was a pickup truck. That's all it was, a pickup truck. 170,000 pickup truck, right? Big tires, big high. So he comes in on a forest road and gets stuck. And he's just digging himself in. And I said, no. Here, this is how you do this. And I just kind of walked out of the forest, didn't see him at all. And he was like freaking out that, the truck was stuck there. So it's on a hill, right? and he starts digging it in, right? So I put it in reverse, right? Because he just had it in forward, and it's a big hill. So put it in reverse. I didn't put my foot on the gas. I just let the truck pull itself out of the thing he was digging, because all the problem was in the forward, but the backward, I backed up past that thing and then eased myself back onto the Forest Service Road, and then pulled up past him up to the top of the hill. Once I was going to stop to pick him up, and got him at the top of the hill. And he was like, "How did you do that?" I said, "Intent, conscious intent. I am." Right. So he says, "Well, I'm in a real rush." I said, "What?" He goes, "So you're that guy who lives over?" That's me. Come visit. Right. So again, he gets in a vehicle, and now we're on it. The vehicle is on, blacktop. You know, but it's still a Forest Service road. It's not like the best road, and it's very curvy, swervy. So he goes around one curve and gets stuck again, right? And so I hobble up and I said, "Get out." And I do the same thing. And then he drives forward and gets stuck a third time. And I say, "Okay, you have to learn how to drive. So you saw me do what I did. You do the same thing, right?" And basically, he had to get over a stump, right? He was like stuck in this muddy ditch and a stump at the back. And the stump was a tree, so you're not lifting that, right? So and I said, just put in reverse and just let the vehicle climb over that tree and, get back on the road and, go up that 3 miles. Now it's straight. Don't get stuck again, because I'm not helping you a fourth time. And so he got it to this place where he really kind of got it stuck behind the log. Right? He didn't really. He just kind of spin the wheel. So I said, "Stop doing that. Put it in neutral." And so he did. And so I basically closed my eyes and energetically lifted the spirit of the vehicle over that thing, and it did. It just kind of rolled up over and boom onto and, I said, "Don't touch anything. Just let the vehicle come to the road straight. Okay, stop. Okay, now put it in park." I said, "So." He said, "How'd you do that?" I said, "You ever see, Return of the Jedi? When Luke goes to find Yoda, and then the little guy lifts his, don't try, do, right?" So that was the first lesson to that guy. So he came back like in a week and found out where it was, and for a good 6 months, I taught him how to meditate, how to pray, how to, visualize Jesus and God, and God is love, and Jesus is forgiveness, right? And that's why I said that's what you have to focus on. But he couldn't get away from the personalities, right? And that's kind of where he's stuck, in the personalities. And that's pretty much where most of humanity is stuck in their personality experience of life. So you heard that guy, right? So he had some real issues with a lot of things, and I basically exposed them. So now he, instead of ignoring them by buying a $200,000 car, a truck that is useless to him, but it looks cool. I said, "You should buy that house, right? And run, you'll have a buddy who's really smart. You two guys should, start a business together. What you do in that corporation, you could do yourselves, right?" And I kind of got them to that point, and then he got another job where they offered him even more money, and so he went and took that. And he left his friend in the lurch there, and they were moving towards, his friend, kind of because of the pandemic, got bought out of his job, so he got a nice settlement to retire early. He was only, 28, and this kid was like 25, and he had a lot of money and came from a pretty rich family. He owed no debt, right? And these people would have sold that house in a blink, right? The one the Floridians bought, because the Floridians bought it, right? and to them it was a money laundering scam, basically. So they're still there, and they've turned it into basically a military compound. Talk about egos. So that's um, that's the story. Um, and you heard that guy, right? So when he left me that phone call, that was about 6 months after he got his new job and made, like 4 times more money than he should have been making to begin with, right? So he was probably making 400 grand, right? Because he was making a little more than 200 grand, right? So, um, and it kind of put his best buddy in the lurch, right? And it you know, the buddy was cleaning that house up so they could get their um, the money, the first and last month security back. Anyway, so he left me. I bought a whole bunch of crap, uh, to survive the end of times. Like cases and cases of ramen noodles. So they did. That guy did. He didn't want to move that shit back to his house and live amongst ramen noodles. So he said, "Hey, you want this stuff?" So I have, a life's of, thing of ramen noodles, right? So anyway, um, but you heard that guy. So, and he's like one of 100 people. But basically, have that story. Now I, help people not because I'm going to get paid for it, right? Like I said, if you give me a gift, that's great. I'm happy. I'm thankful. It always comes in handy, right? But um, and it helps facilitate doing things like this, talking to you. But I really haven't had anything put in there for at least a month, and this is the holiday season, right? So I think the last time I got something was 2 or 3 weeks before Thanksgiving. So that time span, and I've talked about it. Normally, I don't really talk about it because people kind of normally throw little stuff in there, right? So if you're really that strapped, I understand, and not a problem. But that's interesting thing of like, oh look, I only have 3 cents. Like I was looking for some money to put in the plate, right? So I was like going through my man bag, and the people were like looking at me going through all these pockets, and I had my wallet out, I had everything, so I heard about I rumbled up about $4 worth of change, mostly dimes and nickels and a few quarters. And I just kind of bing, 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 and people are like looking at it. And it's a flat plate. And so the kid who's the usher, he kept dropping it on the floor. So it was more like comic relief. But that shows the level of my economics, and it's fine. But um, if there was a thing that I like, I could, need money for paying my electric bill, right? And I have set apart about $100 for that, right? And normally I'm very reserved, but it's really cold, I could use that up in a month. Then I have no electricity. I mean, no, not even to wrap myself in an electric blanket, right? So, but it'll work out, aliens will come and take me to the Bahamas. It's like I'm not worrying about it, right? And this thing with my blood sugar and that I can't control it, and I can feel what addicts are because last 4 days I've been really good. I didn't buy anything sugary to take home and eat, so that keeps me. And I didn't go out really. I came up here, drove a mile to my neighbor's um, driveway and talked to you. But other than that, not too much, right? So, and it's still like holler cafes still going. That I've known those people a long time, so they're really very sweet. They basically give me. They know what I like for breakfast, and for lunch there's a special, and or there is the four vegetables, right? So normally, if, I have breakfast, and they give me a veggie omelet That's it, right? Cup of coffee, right? And you know, they let me pay whatever I got, which is very nice. Same thing with lunch, you know. Normally, I don't really get their special unless it's they have a really, 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 really great veggie lasagna and meat lasagna, and they have that. I'll have that. And so, so there are a few people like that. There's these two restaurants that they let me pay um, what I can afford. You know, because I've known them so long. I've known them since they were kids. I was always there for when they got into trouble or into problems, or as they got older and they had, existential thoughts of life. They came and sat on my deck, and they were part of my country. I've had a lot of people around here that I've helped um, understand life, right? And those churches I go to, that's kind of what I do. I help them understand life. Like today's meal, sitting with that family, and I kind of knew one of them, but I didn't know. Now I know them all really well, right? We talked about all kinds because I went and had everyone talk about their experience of what Christmas is to them. Right? So we got pretty existential there. So, and as we were doing that, Mama, like I said, I knew her. She knew me, but I never really talked to her like I did at this dinner. She was sitting right next to me. But once I got everyone talking about Christmas, she just reached and took my hand in her hand and just kind of had these little, you know, glassy, teary eyes and just smiled. Right? That's what life is about. Right? That's why I'm still alive. I died in 2014. I had 11% to finish. You know, this dinner today was part of that 11%. And I will happily die any minute now. Right? I really have. But if some exciting alternative comes to me in life instead of death, because they're both great alternatives, um, you know, I'd be gladly pick it up. I mean, that's one reason why I was coming to New York, right? But the universe was basically saying in a really harsh way, listen, you left in '88. That's it. Don't go back there. Okay. And the other thing I kind of felt, because there were three incidences when I was out and about that were extraordinarily violent. I mean, two were dealt with trees falling on my car, right? And my car escaped, right? So I felt that not only what it wasn't my time at this moment to go stay there, but this time that I was going to be there, something may happen there, right? And I don't know what it is. But I talked to a few of my doctor friends and I said, so how's the pandemics doing? How's the triple demic doing? And they said, well, it's, all the numbers of people coming in are higher than they have been for the last 6 months. This thing that kids get, we get that all year long. Every year we get this, in a certain, and it is at a point where it is when it's at its worst point, right? And they said, I don't know if that means that it's going to start going down or just keep going up. If it does, we'll have a problem. Right now, no big deal. I mean, it's a big deal. It's kind of making us work harder and doing things we normally don't do. But right now, we can handle it. And the flu, that's starting a little sooner. But again, it's because this guy is a demographer. His real responsibility is triage. He works in this hospital and he gets resources to where they're needed at the moment, right? So that's what he does. He was a military guy, logistics, and a doctor, right? Surgeon too. So, his report was, yeah, everything's ticking up, but it's not, oh my God, my hair's on fire, right? So, and I told him I was heading your way, but I didn't I can't come. He goes, well, it's probably, he says, if this thing takes off, it's probably not wise for you to be in New York, right? it doesn't, it's still probably not wise for you to be in New York. Anyway, because I know him, he's a friend of my son, so I know him since he was a little kid. So, um, and he's like, in his 40s now, which is kind of interesting. Anyway, so he always, I watch your YouTube. You always look like you did when you were, how old were you when I was like 3? Because as far back, as I can remember you is around 3. I remember you getting me a cowboy outfit, right? So that's when I was 3. So, oh, what else can I tell you guys? Let's see who is here. One person's here, and it's it's Tones. Bless you, Tones. Thank you. Yeah, I need all the blessings I can get. So let's pray. Close your eyes, breathe deep, fill your lungs with that prana, visualize your imaginary mirror, see all that prana life force going into every cell of your body. See it reflect off your body onto my body. Heal me. That'd be a good little exercise. Visualize your sensei all done with diabetes and all the other things I have. See me healed, because right now I'm good at keeping homeostasis, but it'd be nice to be healed. Heal me. Now I send prana and Reiki energy to everyone. I mean, that's what I do. When I do this show, I meditate and I drop the shamanic pebble into the World Wide Web, right? And it doesn't matter that there's only one person watching, because Mr. Tone or Miss Tone or Tone is getting the full blessing from it, right? And from the rest of the day, the rest of the week, the rest of their life, that shamanic vibration will vibrate in them. And anybody who watches this, or anyone who doesn't even watch this, it affects everyone on the World Wide Web. And that's, your intention, right? And that's my intention, right? To in every day and every way take the peace of the earth and make it stronger. Through the service to love's co-creation and the manifestation of my will's unconditional forgiveness, right? So when people, like, the Floridians, when they do the shit they do, instead of getting angry or pissed off or annoyed, which I do get all those things, but I see myself do it and I step back from it and say, no, I'm not going there. I'm going to forgive. Right? And I'm going to step back even further and see what's going on. And then I'm going to step back even further and see the motivation for this. Okay, look at that. I'm learning something. I'm out of harm's way. And I see that in the near future, because I did this, and this, and because of that, and this and that, in the end, everything will work out very nicely for me. So I don't have to get upset or worry about it, right? I just stay out of harm's way. And that's what I do, right? And so if I were to die right here in front of you, that'd be fine. It'd be a little awkward for my neighbor. He's not going to show up until after New Year's, so he would find me in a little cruddy shape sitting in the car, be a little smelly, but it wouldn't bother me. But as long as I am needed, I'll be here. Right? It seems like I'm needed. So, remember to breathe and expel the waste products. Breathe in the prana. Breathe out the waste. So anyway, I gotta go. I love you guys. Talk to you soon. Catch you later.